nobody knows, nobody mentions, nobody knows and nobody mentions everything that went through training camp, and I'm not going to mention it either. But we all know everything that went through training camp. We all know everything that went on sparring days. We all know, the way the training camp went. Frustration for him, but also frustration for me. There was so many new people in camp. I'm not. I don't have to lie about things when the first week that I was there. I'm not lying about it. I told his management team I need to go home, fly me home. Because I don't want to be here. There was people that I believe was going we're not going to be there to help out. So I told them, I need to go home. Fly me home. They told me to wait, to hang in there.
And those are the continued words of Robert Garcia as he explains, reveals that he once upon a time wanted to go home because of how frustrated he was with Anthony Joshua in the camp. And of course, it was in the second camp because that's when he came aboard. And let me counterpunch. I think that you don't say no excuses, then say excuses. Hey, I'm not going to talk about certain things that happened in the camp, but I'm going to talk about certain things that happened in the camp. Because at the beginning of this, he was like, "Well, it's things that happen, and I won't even mention. I'm not going to even say." I'm like, "Well, why would you say that?" I know he was just showing his frustration and all, and that sounds all fine and dandy, but why say it now? Again, this looks more of though, Robert Garcia is venting. And he's like, he kind of reminds me of somebody that it just went on witness protection, that talked about something that they've been witness to and they haven't said, but now they're just kind of clearing the air with a confession. It's almost like a confession, like, hey, well, those times I wanted to leave. Now, here's the thing. It's not the fact that people get frustrated. I think, first off, I think everyone gets frustrated, especially when you're accustomed to certain type of camps. Robert Garcia obviously wasn't accustomed to fighters that with that big a caliber. And it just shows you. It shows you that Robert Garcia wasn't really prepared to deal with that type of entourage and stuff like that, and and AJ's team and all this, and he couldn't see that they actually mattered. And here's the truth of the matter: a lot of times those guys don't. They don't really bring no asset or bring no value to a training camp. And for that reason, I agree with Robert Garcia that a lot of those guys should go. Because, most of them I feel are leeches anyway. They're hanging around, taking up space, probably wasting time with AJ simply because they're taking up his time and they're making his attention split. Okay. They're distracting him. And if Robert Garcia said it, I think he would be best just to explain it all. Like, these guys are not of value to the team. Like, give us examples, because you've already said you wanted to leave the camp. That's the worst thing you could have ever said about anybody. I mean, it's the worst possible thing you could have said. Man, it was times I wanted to leave that damn camp. Think about it, people. That's not positive. But then yet you didn't want to say or speak of negative things, but yet you don't want to say things that happened in camp. No, you didn't go into detail. You just said the result of what you were frustrated with without even speaking of it necessarily. So you gave us a general broad review on how you felt about AJ and training AJ. And I just thought that was rather strange now coming from Robert Garcia. Because this is what I feel that happened. I think that Robert Garcia heard AJ's frustration and he's like, okay, if your ass is frustrated now, AJ, How about when I'm telling everybody what I was going to do when I was frustrated? How about that? Since you've showed your disgust or dislike about the things that I had to say, which was actually fucked up. You know, I'm going to tell it all. And I'll be like, okay, that's the worst thing you could ever do. Because the moral code of trainers, all right, it goes like this. What goes on in training stays in training. It's almost equivalent to what goes on in sparring stays in sparring. Because a lot of things happen in sparring that you don't want to get out. You don't want to leak. You don't want to leak anyone's secrets or habits or, things that they were doing that, you didn't like, or things that can possibly tip off the other fighter if they do have a bad habit that maybe that they couldn't correct, or maybe that fighter challenges with. You never want to do that. That's just showing integrity and professionalism. And Robert Garcia wasn't showing really any. Now, him saying he wanted to leave the camp, him saying that he was mentally defeated, him saying that, hey, I won't talk about the things that happened in camp, like those type of things, I think he should really kept to himself or kept in a circle of people. Okay? Him going public with that was just totally unprofessional, simply because that's something that you don't supposed to discuss. And it's almost like a person that really wants to tell everything. And I'm like, well, damn, you've said this much. You might as well tell us the rest. Tell us what else happened. Sit your ass down, have a drink of coffee or whatever, and tell us what really happened in that camp. Because Robert's saying, like, hey, I said good things about Anthony Joshua. Now I got to say some bad things about Anthony Joshua. Listen, I think the ideal thing to do would be, if you had anything to say to AJ, you should have told AJ, simply because Robert Garcia and AJ were on speaking terms probably up until maybe January or late December, right? They were on good terms. He called them, they spoke and everything. So he had ample opportunity to tell AJ, like, look, this is what I don't like you did. This is what frustrated me. I think we need to work on this. And for him not saying that, people, it's just showing me that he only gave a shit about training AJ because of a check. Because if you really cared and you really wanted to solve something, you would tell AJ to his face, or in person, or personally, or privately. You would tell him, like, listen, this is what I don't like you did in the last training camp. Even when I train with you or not, I'm going to tell you straight up, because I'm a straight shooter. I've heard somebody in the comments say that Robert Garcia is a straight shooter. Obviously, he's not, because he should have said this shit to AJ, especially when it's negative. Okay? That's when you want to pull someone to the side, because, everything's right and positive. Who gives a shit? It's the problems that we need to look out for, not the positive, not the accomplishments all the time. You need to find out exactly what's going on with this fighter, what you didn't like about this fighter. Like, look, I don't like how, you were with your entourage in the UK. You need to come over here. If you're not, I don't want to train you anyway. But see, here's the thing though. If AJ made all those mistakes and you had that to say to the public, why would you then turn around and say, I wish I had him again? I wish I had him in the States. I'm not going to lie to you. That just sounds so counterproductive, doesn't it? You had all this stuff to say bad about this guy or this, that, and the other, but then yet he did all this, he did all that. He was mentally broken. You said things that you possibly could have said, but then you turn around and say, hey, I wish I had him in the States. And, I can only chop that up and simplify that, people. Counterpunch that as him just liking the paycheck that he received the night that Usyk defended his unified titles against Anthony Joshua, the former unified champion. That's the only thing that I can grasp from it. But anyway, you guys tell me what you think. Please subscribe, and you encounter